Hi people, I am Tina and welcome to the first episode of my new podcast, which is called This is Poland. So here I'm going to be talking about what living in Poland looks like, which I think I have the right to do since I was born and been living here for my whole life. I came up with the idea of this podcast since I know from my international friends that some of you may be quite interested in facts about my country. So first of all, I would like to start with where is Poland on a map? I know that it may be tricky sometimes to find it for people who are not very familiar with the map of Europe. And it's okay, well, it's definitely in Europe. Some of you can say it's northern part, but it's technically said to be the Middle Europe or even the Western Europe. So Poland borders with Germany on west, with Czech and Slovakia on south, and Ukraine and Belarus on east. So it's right at the Baltic Sea. What I also want to say is that I really appreciate all the people who love Poland, like no matter the reason. Just thank you guys for being as kind-hearted and as tolerant as you are. And here comes the other important fact. We have no other flag than the one like divided in half with white color on top and red on bottom. This is our official flag, even though you say that sometime you can see the one with colors like reversed. And it's not like someone made a mistake. No, the one with red on top and white on bottom belongs to Monaco. There is also a chance that you confuse it with the Indonesian one. For me, it's slightly funny, but I know that for some, it could be bothersome. So I think it's just better to clarify since I have a chance now. Okay, now let's go down to the business. In today's chapter, I'm gonna be talking about living in a city. Why do you think it's worthwhile, you may ask? Well, guys, it's 2024, right? As most of you may know, due to some political conflicts, economical reasons, or just touristic motifs, nowadays people migrate all around the globe. And it's for many reasons, like to find a new job or just a place to live that suits them better. It seems so common and so simple. And you know what? Since the last couple of years, Poland was constantly becoming home for immigrants or refugees. It's a real melting pot of nationalities now. And I think it's even allowed to say that our identity is slowly changing from Polish to like European. And because of the diversity, our authentic culture, folk and traditions, they gradually fade away. Some of them can still be alive thanks to some occasions, but mostly related to religion, which is, let's be honest, no longer a common lifestyle among Poles. Okay, what I need to say about myself before we really start is that I'm definitely a human of the new generation. And by the new generation, I mean that being in my mid-20s, I still want to believe that I have a right to choose how I want to live my life. Well, I originally come from a small town in the south, but as a teenager, I chose the city life. So I definitely take part in this great cultural exchange by learning English so I can talk to foreign people from around the world. And it's something I've been doing for years now. And after time, I do have some long-distance friendships made online only, and some of them with people that I've never met in real life and I will probably never meet. And I think it's how it works today, you know? Like we use the internet and it's the World Wide Web. And so we are. And that's why when meeting each other online, just for a while, we exchange informations about life, about how it goes here and there, how it has been and where it could lead us. Among my pen pals, there sometimes appear people who already know things about Poland and consider moving here for life or just visiting or coming again. And you know what? Each of them ask the same question, like which cities are worth seeing the most, or do I have to learn Polish before I come, or I can manage knowing English only, or are there a lot of people from my country? And the most difficult one is, will I find a job and some place to live? And for the latter, my answer always is, well, it depends on if you're gonna stay in a big or smaller city. To be honest, I never take into account and never recommend village, because I think there is no chance to survive for new beginners in this crazy Polish adventure, unless you have some local friend with you. But talking about cities, I noticed that the very first choice of many foreigners is Warsaw, Wrocław or Kraków. And I'm not surprised, because these are very beautiful cities with impressive historical monuments. That's for sure. When I say Kraków, you say, oh, Wawel Castle. When I say Wrocław, you say the Old Town. When I say Warsaw, you say technically the same things, but including these high-rise buildings in the city center. But let's take Warsaw as the representative one here. In fact, major parts of the city were completely destroyed during Second World War. And you may have seen some old pictures from that period. Really nothing but debris. But kind of thanks to that, the city was totally rebuilt and well planned architecturally wise. And you know what? During my foreign travels, I got to know some very important facts about my own country that I haven't realized ever before. And one of these is that Warsaw is definitely beautiful European capital. And I mean it. It's modern, very clean, and quite well managed, I must say. And it's not like I recommend my place. No, I don't live there, but I visit quite often. There is a frequent question. Should I visit the capital when planning on my trip? I mean, yes, you should definitely visit Warsaw, and yet Kraków and Wrocław, Gdańsk, Gdynia, Sopot, and even the city I live. Well, I live in Łódź, which is not very popular as a touristic place, but to say the least, could certainly give you a very unique impression as well. So you're very welcome whenever you have a chance. We even have an airport. So all of these are definitely worth seeing and staying at for longer, maybe even for life. But you need to remember that living in Poland slowly becomes expensive. Not only for tourists, but for locals as well. And you know what? The worst thing to pay for is definitely an accommodation. Let me be clear. Cheap hotels can be easy to find, right? For those who are brave and easygoing enough, I can recommend great thing, which is couchsurfing. There are websites where you can meet people offering sleepovers for free. It's a great thing, obviously, not for everyone, of course, depending on your preferences. What about coming for longer when you need to rent a place? Well, ladies and gentlemen, now the shit hits the fan. No, really, I will briefly tell you about it, but a bit later. One of the most common questions also is, do I have to learn Polish? And well, it's your lucky day, because the answer is no, of course, you don't have to. Really, the citizens of Warsaw and residents of other large cities, they can speak English very well or quite well, or at least they know basics. Right? Except most kids and elderlies, of course, but you shouldn't be surprised. Moreover, the city is perfectly set up with easy-to-use public transit, and it's easy to be at for foreigners, which means many facilities, like the names of places or stations, like subway stations. In fact, Warsaw is the only city with subway. So the names are written in multiple languages. 2 languages at least, including English, of course. In public places, you're gonna be served in English easily. And In most places like restaurants, you will find an English language menu or alerts or instructions if needed. So what's more, at the gym, boutique or a doctor's, it's also not a problem really, but the English speaking professionals like doctors or like personal trainer, you may be searching for a bit longer. I personally know some foreigners who have been living in Poland for several years now and still don't speak Polish, so communicate in English daily. So the conclusion is, if you are only concerned about the quality of the communication here, then don't worry too much. If you're gonna be sticking to large cities, to city centers or popular, like frequented places, you will certainly have a good time and good communication in this country. That's for sure. Of course, I encourage you to learn Polish during your stay, even though it's not easy to learn, they say. And now, what about those who plan to settle here? What about a job and a place to live at for longer? Well, now it's widely said about the crash in the labor market. So to find a job could be tricky unless you're very accomplished engineer or CEO with excellent educational background and 100+ years of experience behind you. You know what I mean. So finding the typical white-collar jobs could be tricky nowadays, which I think stems from our educational system. Well, I don't want to be going into details right now, because the labor market here is I think it's a material for a whole another chapter. But what I want to say is, if you think of moving to Poland, you better have some remote job in another country. I mean, the job with good salary, paid in stronger currency than Polish zloty. And then you can easily afford living the big city life to the fullest, assuming you're willing to find the better place to live by moving here. So, in fact, with no Polish skills, you would hardly be able to get some other job than as a physical worker in a workshop or a store, an Uber driver or delivery guy. A huge exception is the whole IT and media industry, like everywhere on this planet nowadays. I mean, it's said that by performing an average job, like not having a great career, you still cannot afford living on your own in the biggest cities, because the average rent, guys, it almost equals the average salary, as it happens in many countries, in fact. So before you come for longer, I want you to know that Poland has already become one of these countries. For instance, to buy and renovate a flat big enough to fit you and your family, like not for single people or just a couple, but for people with kids, right? In Warsaw, you need to be a millionaire. But it's also just another thing about economics that we could talk about in separate episode. Okay, so now I could say something about advantages of the famous big city life. Yes, there are pros and cons, like with everything in the world, but here we just love museums, and you need to accept that. There are historical museums, like open-air museums, museums of art and art galleries, just every sort of spots that commemorates and shows our heritage. In every city, you have such spots to visit, so if you like it, you're like in heaven. I know that there are some days, in Warsaw for sure, that you can visit some of the places for free. And if I remember well, it's on Thursdays and Sundays. Yeah, but tickets are usually not expensive anyway, so it shouldn't stop you from coming on weekends too. Another thing I personally love about cities are festivals. We have open-air festival in Gdynia, Warsaw Music Festival. We even have our own version of Woodstock, and it's the only one you can participate for free. Moreover, there are festivals of movies and theater, flower festivals, festival of colors, of lights, food festivals. Oh yeah, we like pizza, ramen, and these food trucks. What's more, Festival of Beer also happens sometime. Yeah, they naturally start along with summer, like pretty everything. So what to do in a city during the winter? Well, nobody really goes out. Imagine all these blocks of flats built of concrete, the snow turning into mud, the temperature going below freezing, so every piece of nature literally dies. So from late autumn to the end of the winter, the only colors you can see are black, dark gray, medium gray, emerald gray, light gray, and a gray with a hint of white and yellow spots on it. But you never eat it, please. Yeah, you can surely find some activities to do under the roof. Like, no worries, things still happens, but not in such pleasant environment as it is during vacation time. The great thing about the city is a public transport. Of course, people complain, and they always will, but I personally think that public transport here makes the life easier. In huge cities like these I already pointed before, there are plenty of options to travel from point A to point B. You really don't need to have a car, which sounds like a relief since there is constant lack of parking spots everywhere in cities. There are all sorts of transport, from the tiny ones like electric scooters and bikes on every corner, literally every corner. You can go anywhere by bus, by tram, subway, even Warsaw, and train, of course. If you really need a car, then you can easily take one of the car sharing companies. By just using an app, you can simply drive it for as long as you pay for. Another great thing is that you can go from one city to another by train, and it's relatively cheap. Even cheaper than going by car sometimes. So the stations are very well organized and wagons are clean even if they're old. A first class ticket is not way more expensive than second class. Obviously, there are some express premium intercity trains that tickets are quite pricey, but I think they're not worth this money unless you can get to your place like way faster than usual. Well, you simply need to choose whatever suits you better, right? Okay, so the next thing I have on my list is... Oh no, it's actually the last thing I wanted to mention about. Sorry, so, yeah, and I was thinking if not telling more about prices, but on this point it doesn't make sense since I'd have to compare them between the cities. Well, I don't want to judge here if living in a city is good or bad. It simply is what it is, and we need to face it depending on plan. So the conclusion now. What is the most important thing I would like you to know about before you come to Poland? Well, it's the thing about accommodation and jobs. Since you plan to be a visitor only, then you are very welcome. Please come and enjoy your trip. And don't worry too much. I'm sure there will be not too many problems with communication, accommodation, and domestic travels. But for those who are interested in joining us in our Polish life for longer, just please rethink your plan twice. Unless you're just a rich man. I hope that your big city life, your Polish dream, your heaven on earth will be exactly what you expect. Okay, thanks for listening to me. It was Tina speaking and this is Poland. I hope you enjoyed the first episode and I will come back soon with the next one, even if most of you don't feel a need to hear more. I just enjoy talking to you guys. So if you want to share your opinion or have some questions or ideas, you simply text me or leave a comment. I will be more than happy. The podcast is available on Spotify and on YouTube. So thanks for listening again and stay tuned for more. As we say in Poland, do usłyszenia.